All right. Welcome everyone to our final week of Bot Camp, which is also coincidentally our kickoff for Bot Games. We are broadcasting live from the Automation Anywhere, North Carolina headquarters, which is Micah's house. So super excited to have all of you back. I hope you were all able to dial in on the training that we had this week. This week's training was a little bit different. We went into some very specific packages to prepare you to be able to start to build your own automations. So hopefully you're able to get through all of that. You know what? We started with a really cool theme here. Jeremy shared some feedback about the training, which I think is excellent. If you have feedback on our training, now that you've gone through Bot Camp, if you completed it, awesome. If you got through most of it, if you got through some of it, please share that feedback in our chat. We want to hear what you liked, what you didn't like, what are some things that we can improve. We always want to make sure this is as effective as possible to prepare you to build automations. And I know some people are building fun stuff on their own. Some people are building for work. All of that is cool. I'm joined once again by coworker and friend Kate Ressler, who is going to tell us a little bit about how her training went this week. Kate, over to you.
Well, hey, everybody. All right. So training this week, it has been a very busy week. So I found that I kept getting interrupted, which meant I woke up super early yesterday to power through all 6 of the trainings. They were short. I didn't expect that because I thought they would be more complex, being kind of diving into the packages. But they were very helpful in my approach for my first automation build. There was lots of reminders. I mean, I think some of the things that we learned this week had already been touched on previously, just maybe some additional layers, which was nice. So there's a lot of reinforcement, and then very useful for trying my own thing.
You're teasing it. So last week, we talked about the fact that Kate had an idea for an automation. And I think this is a great way for people who are just getting started learning something new. You find something that's like your passion project, something that you care about, something that has an impact for you personally, something that has an impact for your team, and you try to build it, and you try to put those skills to use, and you see where are the things that like I'm super comfortable, where are the things that I'm still trying to figure that out. Kate, you built a special automation to help you in this holiday season. Talk some about that.
Yep. Okay. So I built an automation that allowed me to, I manually pulled all my Amazon and other orders and dropped it into a spreadsheet with the tracking numbers. And my goal was to have an automation update that spreadsheet with what the current status was, because shipments are everywhere and I was getting some weird notifications. Anyway, long story short, my first approach for building this was way too complex. And so I was like, there's got to be a better way. I think that was one of my big lessons, is like, try to simplify. If you can figure out how to simplify, things will go a lot smoother. So I found a website that tracks all shipments, and that simplified this automation tremendously. I did run into lots of moments where I was like, oh, what do I do again? But luckily, there was a few times I was able to reference the homework from prior weeks to see how I handled something. And then I took that and applied it. And then when I ran into an issue that I really couldn't solve, I called you, which is also a lesson, right? Like, raise your hand when you don't know what you're doing.
That's right.
People are there to help. I feel like I should have learned that a long time ago because it's a life lesson. But, here we are.
Yeah.
Many years into my career, and I'm still working on it.
No, it was great. So if we think about what Kate's build was doing, right? She has a spreadsheet. It has all the tracking numbers for the gifts that she's purchased for friends and family. Her automation is then looping through all of those tracking numbers. Now, what she talked about was an optimization, was that she found a website where you just fill in the tracking number, and regardless of the tracking provider, whether it's USPS, UPS, FedEx, Amazon, it was able to look up the status, and then she's able to update that spreadsheet with the status for each shipment. So Kate did a really good thing here where she had a passion project that she was trying to solve. This is a great way to kind of put your skills to test so that you can see, like, hey, this is something, it's kind of easy. I'm not going to automate all of it. I'm going to still put my order numbers and my shipment details in here, but I wanted to update the status for each one of these. And so it obviously went much quicker than she is able to look up each of these statuses. So I think it's a great first build. I think it was a really cool project. And so good, we're going to turn that into a project that will be available on Automation Anywhere University, where you'll be able to do a build very similar to Kate's, where we'll give you a list of tracking numbers, we'll give you a simulated lookup tool, and you'll be able to build this same automation. So I think that's a really cool first project. Kate, one last thing I want to ask you. Next week is our Bot Games Season of Giving edition. And Season of Giving edition is really special this year because we are partnering with United Way of the Bay Area to bring everyone this challenge. Tell me how prepared you feel for that challenge, knowing that I think you've seen a little bit about what the challenge is. So you kind of know where it's going.
I'm 95% confident that I'll be able to get through it without having to phone a friend. Primarily because I've got, and everyone that's gotten this far along, we've got our homework to reference. We've got all the things that we've already built, plus hopping back into AAU to pinpoint the exact spot of the videos. They're only like 5 to 10 minutes mostly. So I've got all these resources that'll make it hopefully fairly simple.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that. Bot Games is going to be a really fun way for people to put their skills to the test and really, just like Kate did this week, figure out if you're able to apply the things that you've learned. So sincerely appreciate that. And Kate, great job on figuring out your first automation. We'll be looking forward to hearing back from you next week when we do our Bot Games live stream and solution tutorial to check in to see how you did.
Awesome. So, I'll be here.
Very cool. Let's transition now to our special guest. We are joined by, the transition is probably happening right now, Steven. Steven is a community member, MVP. Steven is a prolific Bot Games participant. He's been very active in our Bot Games challenges in the past, and he's one of the guys who is breaking speed records on most of our challenges because he's figuring out these weird tweaks and weird quirks to get things to go even faster. So, Steven, that's my intro. Why don't you introduce yourself and give us a little bit of insight in who you are?
Sure. So, name's Steven. I come from a technical background, basically doing IT engineering stuff all my life. I could give you like a super polished like resume pitch of like all my accolades and experience, but I just want to get into the meat and the potatoes to kind of like give you guys value.
Yeah.
So my title is software engineer. Doesn't really do it justice. I'm kind of wearing multiple hats. I'm doing RPA development. I'm doing COE type stuff for governance and standards, infrastructure and architecture, maintaining the healthcare platform, bringing in new technologies, process engineering, spearheading a citizen developer program, and leading the way on promotion and engagement inside the company that I work for, which is Cardinal Health. I think it's like a Fortune 15 company. We do like $182 billion in revenue. So we're basically doing a little bit of everything or a lot of bit of everything. So
that's a great intro. Steven, we talked to Kate a second ago about her kind of first bot build that she did. And I know that for me, same thing. I learned Automation Anywhere, and then I went to apply that with a specific thing that I was trying to solve. What was your first or memorable thing that you were trying to solve and you used Automation Anywhere to help with?
Yeah, so I mean, I've kind of been doing automation even before like Automation Anywhere was a thing. So I'll give you like the non-RPA and then the journey into RPA or Automation Anywhere. So it pretty much started with like the classics of bread and butter hotkeying between windows to fill out form fields between an Excel sheet and a browser to add contacts. And then, eventually it evolved into more complex things. Like I had a personal project, which actually helped me get into the Automation Anywhere industry, which I would recommend you do if you want to take up the challenge. Something that I did when I was looking for a full-time job in Automation Anywhere space was I was on the job hunt looking for large enterprises that were mature in the space that I could work at. And something that I did was use job aggregator websites similar to like dice.com. And I would set up alerts in these systems with accounts that I would create where it would say, okay, you might be interested in this job. Oftentimes it wasn't. So I would have an automation running where it would loop through my emails, clicking on these links to open them up in a browser, and then I would scrape out the data from these websites and give like a probability score on whether or not I wanted like this job. And then I would just go through that and I would just like sit back and kick it. So, yeah, if you want to make an impression on like your recruiter and get engagement with them, just be like, oh, how did you find out about this job? Oh, I just automated my job search. So like, you want to like move me along here? So
that's awesome. I love that. So I want to hear from everyone else who's in our chat. What was your first build? What was the first thing that you built that you were like, hey, this is my passion project. This is the thing that I solved. I'll give a quick anecdote on applying for jobs. When I applied here, I didn't have any experience doing DevRel at all. So what I did is I put the entire job description in a white font on my resume so that any of their job filters would think that I had every single hit word. But then when a human looks at the resume, they're going to say, well, I don't see it, but we'll try. And that was my trick. So that seemed to work really well because all of the automated filters would find me as a perfect match, and it would at least get me my first call. So that was another weird one. Yeah, no, I think building your first project is a really important thing because you've learned these skills. There's going to be some rough edges. There's going to be some things you're really comfortable with. And being able to put those together in a build to kind of test where you're at and where you still need to learn is a great way to kind of get a pulse and learn from there. Stephen, I want to ask you, why Automation Anywhere? Cardinal Health is a gigantic organization. You obviously could be using other platforms. I may be walking into a bee's nest here, but why Automation Anywhere for you?
So, I haven't been at Cardinal Health for a terribly long amount of time, and they made the decision to use Automation Anywhere before I was there. I still would have chosen Automation Anywhere, though. So I'll say why I think Automation Anywhere is an ideal automation platform for a non-technical Annex audience. It'll take me a little bit to get there, but humor me for a moment. It's no surprise that there are competitors in the space like UiPath and Blue Prism and Power Apps and Power Automate for Microsoft.
We usually bleep most of those words from this live stream, but we'll let you continue.
I'll say all the things that you wish you could say. So, I've had this experience, firsthand where I'll have a seasoned professional engineer from various walks of life or a non-technical person. I'll sit them down and I'll open up UiPath Studio for Enterprise, and it's just visual overload. It's complex. I will argue that it's not the most intuitive to use, and I could go on about the deficiencies of the product, but I will make a comparison between UiPath Academy versus the Pathfinder Academy of Automation Anywhere. When you do the citizen developer tracks in the Pathfinder Academy, the coursework, it's listed for like something like 3 or 4 hours. You look at the same corresponding coursework in UiPath Academy, and it's like 30 hours. And if you want to take it up a notch, and you want to do the Pro Developer Pathfinder Academy coursework, which I would recommend, it's again just small bite-sized chunks. It's like 3 or 4 hours or something small. Look at the same corresponding work that is in UiPath Academy, albeit by different names, but for the same functions. It's basically listed for like literally 123 hours. So I'm just hammering home the point of the complexity and difficulties that you are probably going to see if you use something like UiPath. To talk a little bit about Blue Prism is documentation as code. So you're basically working in a Visio diagram white space where you drag shapes into place and then code inside of them, and then you kind of make some sort of like abominable spaghetti diagram monster where you connect between your shapes so you can run code. So not only do you have to be an expert in 2 domain of knowledge spaces, being a developer, as well as being someone that's good at documentation, it makes it difficult. I often find that It's easier to find someone that can be a developer or code than it is to find someone that's good at documentation. So putting it together, it makes for kind of a little bit of an uphill battle. So if I'm talking about Power Automate and Power Apps by Microsoft, it's no surprise that Microsoft is going to be competent against automating against their own products like Office and SharePoint lists and all that's good. I will argue that it doesn't really have that much of a competitive edge against any competitors like Automation Anywhere. You can do all the same stuff. But if you want to do small use cases, that's fine, but it will quickly fall apart for you when you try to go to a medium or complex business process, I will find, and pretty much industry sentiment. And from my own personal experience, it's kind of lackluster in governance and standards. So to circle round this long tailwind here and bring it back to Automation Anywhere and why I think it's ideal for a non-technical and a technical audience, right? So for a non-technical audience, like I can basically take Joe Blow off the street metaphorically and navigate them to the code editor and have like a 10 or 15 minute conversation and just say, okay, commands on the left, they're intuitive by name that describe their function. It's easy to use. You configure your things on the right. The documentation is tightly coupled to the code where you can do hover over a command package and it'll give you a description and you can jump to the documentation from there. So I find it very easy to use and modular in a way that you're going to be hard pressed to find in other platforms where you can make useful code. And if you want to push the limits of the platform and the capabilities, it's still there waiting for you if you want it. You can do Python, you can do JavaScript, you can do C# stuff and stuff with DLLs. You can, if that isn't cutting the mustard for you, you can do something where you can, I can't remember the exact name of the command package, but it's like start a program or open an application. And you can just give it whatever compiled file you've made or you want to specify with whatever parameters you want. And then you can fill up whatever the deficiencies you think there are in the command packages. So you just run your own command, you put some weight logic in front of it, wrap it in some error handling, and you're pretty much off to the races. And you can also make your own command packages if you want to. So
yeah,
in a nutshell, I'll leave it at that.
That was great. That was excellent. So I didn't want to interrupt that because it was a spectacular flow. Note that this was not something we pre-discussed ahead of time. I didn't give him talking points or anything like that, but thank you for that feedback, Stephen. That's excellent. I do want to make sure our audience knows we're taking questions. So if there's any questions you had from the training, from this week's content, we do want to go over that. So I want to remind everyone for that. Stephen, I will agree with everything you said there. I was part of the team previously at TIA when we made the decision to go with Automation Anywhere. And one of the things that attracted us the most to this platform over others was exactly what you mentioned, and that's the understandability of the logic and being able to take someone else through it, right? If I can take someone who's a non-business user, or I'm sorry, who is a business user, a non-technical background, and that's why something like steps is really important. I build out the steps. It's the general flow. I can walk you through it. I don't have to show you a single line of code. There's no context that has to be filled in there. I don't have issues with like, oh, I forgot a period here, or there's a semicolon that has to be at the end of this configuration. None of that. I can walk you through it. You'll be able to understand what's happening. It's a very visual flow. And I'm actually a flow builder guy. Are you a list guy or are you a flow builder?
I'm a hardcore lister. The only time I use the flow view is when I'm making my initial steps and I'm trying to like fit in like right above or below a specific line that's like nested.
Yeah. All right. Let me know in the chat. Everyone else, list guy or girl, or are you a flow guy or girl? I know that the training, we have largely gone over the flow view. That's what I prefer. I build in flow view almost all the time. Only when I have like a super, super large automation do I need to scroll through list view to get to where I want, but then I switch back over to flow view. Just my own personal preference, how I like to build. Stephen, last question I want to ask you. You have been a prolific participant in bot games. Show us the bot game shirt. I think I saw you were wearing that.
Yeah, here you go.
Stephen is wearing a very special limited edition Automation Anywhere plus Google Cloud bot game shirt that we had from Imagine. Give us a teaser. What are some general tips that you would give someone who's going through this training to be prepared for bot games next week?
Yeah, so I will say this much. If you are no stranger to bot game challenges and doing them, something just in general, what I would recommend you doing when you're doing bot games, if you have done a bot games where you are at a fork in the road to how to solution towards a problem and you take a path, the next time you're presented the opportunity to take that same path, I would recommend that you not take that path, because it just is going to open up new ideas for how to solution to things and expose you to different command packages. A rather unconventional tip I will give as a whole to, basically any industry is, and you'll probably laugh, is to buy a plastic yellow rubber ducky. So why I am saying that is this. There is a concept called rubber duck debugging. It's kind of like a fork of pair programming, if you know what that is, where you will achieve your aha moment of how to solution towards a problem by taking a bottom-up approach to explaining something, basically to an inanimate object that knows nothing. So you just walk through your problem with a rubber duck, and it will give you your aha moment.
I love that. That's a great idea and a great concept. And one day that rubber duck will be powered by generative AI, and it will just tell you the answer directly. But for right now, I think that's a great approach and a great way to think through problems. All right, Stephen, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate your insights here. If we get some more questions, we'll switch back and maybe have Stephen take some of these questions in the future. But thank you for joining. I want to switch now to Allison, and Allison's going to do some shout outs for our community, those who have been super dialed in and engaged this week. Again, if you do have questions about this week's content, automation building, anything that we covered so far in Bot Camp, please put those in the chat. But Allison, over to you.
Yeah, hi everyone. Allison Abel here, Pathfinder Community Director. Super excited to be here again. Thank you to everyone that's been engaged in all of our different areas of community, whether that's been, in our forums, LinkedIn, social channels. I know people have been connecting via email directly. It's been so great to see all this exciting activity and collaboration. And I do want to just acknowledge one thread that we had in the community that really highlights the power of our community too, that I want to make sure we continue to emphasize. We had a great question about how to read images in PDFs. And I do want to share that, we had some great responses and collaboration. Please take some time to read through that. There was some great ideation in there. Thank you, Erin, again from our team for jumping in. And then I also want to acknowledge we had our a partner, Abhay, jump in as well. So not only do we have our own team members and experts, not only do you have your peers, but we also have this really vast partner network that's also jumping in and answering your questions too. That forum's not going away, so please continue to use it. And please also share your feedback. If there's ways and insights and things we can be providing, don't hesitate to reach out. Let myself know, let the team know. We really want to make sure we're providing you a place that is of value. I also want to shout out Krishna. Krishna went on LinkedIn and shared his certificate of completion. For those that want to claim their certificate of completion and share it out, we have shared instructions in our community. That link will be dropped in the chat. Please be sure to claim your certificate, celebrate your success. We want to celebrate with you. So we're looking forward to seeing that as well. And then my final highlight, we know that several people had some excitement, jumped in and shared that excitement with their colleagues. And now their colleagues are interested in jumping in. So we are building what I'm calling a playlist. It has all of our toolkits. It will have all of these session recordings, and we'll be sure to drop in the cert claim instructions as well. But that is pinned in our community. If you go to our homepage, you'll see it in the latest news. So please feel free to share that and access that. That will not be going away. So it's a great tool to leverage as well. And again, if you see something missing from there, you know where to find me, community@automationanywhere.com. Please let us know. Micah, back to you. Oh, Micah, I think you might be on mute.
Total rookie move. Rookie move. Thank you, Allison. I do want to highlight this certificate component real quick. If you claim your certificate, we want you to share that on social media. You have the ability to share that directly on LinkedIn. You can share it on other social forums as well. It probably makes the most sense on LinkedIn, but you can share it there. You also have the ability to add that to your LinkedIn profile. So when you have those like credentials towards the bottom of your profile that show up, this is a great credential to have on there. It shows that you have taken initiative to learn something new. I appreciate all the feedback that we got earlier. I saw Leo chimed in with some feedback, so that was awesome to hear. I also want to acknowledge the number of people who are against me here. Everyone seems to prefer list view besides me, and that's okay. I will be the brave sole selector of list view. It is great to see that feedback, though. The product team obviously has done a great job of being able to enable you to switch between those views and even have both views up at once. They're probably only keeping flow view up for me, it sounds like, because everyone else likes list view. So I'm the only person who really prefers that one. For your certificate, like Allison mentioned, we do have some instructions for that on the community forums. This is actually the one from Kate. So Kate, there's your certificate. Thanks for grabbing that. And this is how you will go and claim that certificate. Again, it's a PDF. You can download it, share it on social, put it up in your credentials profile so that everyone's able to celebrate you. The last thing I want to talk about for this week is next week, we will be kicking off Bot Games Season of Giving Edition. And what this means is that we will be introducing a Bot Games challenge on Monday, December 11th. So what happens is we will, on our community forum, put up a post that explains what this year's challenge is, the instructions of how you're supposed to complete it, and some very basic rules like, hey, you got to make sure that your automation launches this page, downloads this file, etc. So we'll have those very basic rules up. You have from Monday, December 11th until the 14th to solve this challenge. Actually, you can solve it after that. But on the 14th, which is next Thursday, we'll be doing a live stream similar to this one where we're going to recap Bot Games. We're going to talk about how do you solve this challenge? What are some tips and some tricks? We'll have a full solution tutorial for you. So if you did get stuck and you want to see how to solve it, we'll show you that. The important thing here is that Bot Games Season of Giving Edition is a special partnership with United Way of the Bay Area. And for each person who completes the Bot Games Challenge during this December 11th through 15th, technically, week, Automation Anywhere will be making a donation to United Way of the Bay Area. So this is not only a great way for you to put some of your skills to test and see how effective you are at the bot building that you've just learned how to do. If you came out of Bot Camp, great. If you're a seasoned bot developer, you also have the ability to complete this. But this is a great way to put those skills to test while also helping the United Way of Bay Area with their goals and their mission. And we've got some more details about their goals and their mission that we'll be sharing next week with some interesting interviews that we've done with some of their leadership team. So be looking forward to that. All right, Jorge, let's switch back to myself and Steven. I want to do one last check of our comments, make sure everything is addressed. Cool. All right, so it looks like, again, I'm the only one who likes FlowView, but I will survive. All right, Steven, I want to thank you again so much for joining us. Thanks, everyone, for joining us for this Bot Camp recap. We look forward to Bot Games next week. I'll be anxiously awaiting everyone who completes that challenge, shares their Bot Games certificate on social media. We want to celebrate you. Use hashtag Bot Games. You're going to see lots of people posting their certificates and celebrating their wins. And Steven, can we expect you to have the fastest time globally?
No training wheels. I'll bring the smoke.
All right. I like that. All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining. We will catch you next week. Thanks again.
Thanks.